all people of this free country, thank you to the veterans. Please put your hand over your heart. All veterans, a hand salute, face the American flag, and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One more thing. Let's have a moment of silence for the people in Ukraine that want freedom. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Doesn't that anthem fill your heart with joy?
Yes.
Again, good morning. My name is Anna Kaplan. I am New York State Senator for the 7th Senate District, and I proudly represent this district. Before we start, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I know it's Saturday morning and you all could be someplace else doing something else, but it is so important for us to gather here together, shoulder to shoulder, to say there is no room for hate in our community. There is no room for hate in our community. I also want to give a big shout out and thank you for Peter Gong, who's always here and supporting us, and to all the veterans for all their service and their family, for all the sacrifices that they've made so that we can all gather here together. I also would like to recognize we have with us today Mayor Weinberg, who is the mayor for Thomaston. Thank you for being here with us. And a very special thank you to Commissioner Frank Sillitti, Great Neck Park District Commissioner, for all his help and effort and putting this and helping us with today's event. To say, I'm really happy to be here with you and to see so many people from my district and to just reconnect with you. But also, there's a part of me that feels very sad that we have to get together to keep talking about hate, to talk about Asian hate. I know in the last 2 years, during this pandemic, we've seen such an increase of hate crimes, but especially anti-Asian hate. It saddens me to say that, to see that in this country. First and foremost, we are all American. We are all Americans, and we call this country our home. We might have different backgrounds, come from different parts of this world, but we are all first and foremost American. Hate and violence against Asian Americans are up since the pandemic, and the racist language like Kung Flu and the China virus demonizes Asian Americans and make them targets. According to FBI, hate crimes are at the highest level in 12 years. According to NYPD, anti-Asian incidents have increased by 343%. There have been brutal, high-profile incidents where anti-Asian violence took innocent lives, like Michelle Go, who was pushed to her death from a subway platform. Christina Lee, who was stabbed to death in her apartment by a stranger. And Miss Ma, who died with a rock while sweeping in front of her home in Queens. All of this means that Asian Americans are living in fear. According to the Pew Research Center, 1/3 of Asian Americans live in fear of threats, physical attacks, and violence, causing them to change their daily behavior to keep themselves safe. This is not the America that I know. This is not the community that we built, all of us together. Right now, with the climate of hate and division being stoked by extremists and white supremacists who want to tell us that diversity is a bad thing, we're here to tell them our diversity is our strength. Our diversity makes us the special community that we are. Our diversity enriches our communities. We reject the idea that diversity shouldn't be taught and celebrated in our schools. And we are here to say that more needs to be done to ensure kids are getting a proper education about the contributions of diverse Americans. Right. The unfortunate reality is that we failed to teach kids in school about the contributions of Asian Americans in our history. We failed to teach kids that Asian American community is American too. That's right. And Asian American history is American history. But today we're coming together to rally for a bill in the New York State Legislature that can change all of that. A bill that I'm very proud to co-sponsor. A bill that requires to learn not only about the history of Asian Americans, but also their contribution to our society. I'm so proud to have Senator John Liu in my conference, someone who always stands up for the right, someone who sponsored this bill, someone who talks about how our diversity is our strength. The more we know about our history and the better we understand the journey of our neighbors, the closer we can be as a community. It is time to empower our community with knowledge and fight hate together with education. Next, I want to introduce Gina Sillitti, who needs no introduction. She's my counterpart in Assembly, who helps us pass all these good legislations for the benefit of our communities. Thank you.
Oh man, I need this guy with me all the time. Thank you, Senator Kaplan, for partnering together as we gather support to try and pass this incredible piece of legislation. First of all, this is an amazing crowd. Give yourselves a hand. This is awesome. You know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people their support for this. It's not just politicians talking about it, it's the community that's talking about it. So I'm so grateful that you all are here. Thank you. So, in addition to showing support, it shows the unity and how important Senator Liu's bill is not only to the Asian community, but to everyone in our community. Recently, in leading up to this event, I learned about an incredible woman. Her name is Mabel Ping Hua Lee. Now, by a show of hands, who is familiar with Mabel? Anybody familiar? There's literally no hands up. This is exactly why Senator Liu's bill needs to pass. So let me tell you a little bit about Mabel. She was born in China. At the age of 9, she won an academic scholarship to study in the United States. She settled with her family in New York's Chinatown in 1905. Mabel became very politically active and joined the women's suffrage movement, demanding a woman's right to vote. I know, my kind of woman. At the young age of 15, picture this, she rode on horseback, led over 10,000 women in a parade down the streets of New York City, waving the National American Suffrage Association banner. A teenager, 1912, riding down the streets of Manhattan, leading 10,000 women, mainly, of course, white women, demanding the right to vote. She did such a great job, she asked to lead the charge again in 1917, the year that women finally gained the right to vote in New York. Mabel was pivotal in securing a woman's right to vote, and nationally. But she didn't stop there. She continued her activism. She was the first Chinese woman to earn a PhD from Columbia University in economics. It's incredible. I was thrilled to learn, as I was reading about Mabel, that a post office in Chinatown was renamed in her honor. But it's meaningless if people still have no idea who she is and what she did. Mabel said, the fundamental principle of democracy is equality of opportunity. Let me say that again. The fundamental principle of democracy is equality of opportunity. And that's exactly what we're doing here today, right? Our democracy allows us to raise our voices. It allows us to rally. It allows us to demand that Asian American history be given the equal opportunity to be taught and learned in our classrooms. Yes! I really like Mabel. She is a hero and an inspiration. Our kids should know about her and the contributions of Mabel and so many more like her. Through education, we can begin to change minds, break barriers and stereotypes about Asian Americans, and finally start to chip away at the hate and the racism. Now listen, I understand that education may not bring the fastest results. It's not going to happen overnight, but I believe it's going to bring the longest lasting ones. I'm going to read a quote. Education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. Confucius says that. We all need confidence. We all want hope and peace, especially in today's environment, in this complex world that we live in now. And it all starts with education. You know, prior to coming here today, not everyone likes what we're doing. It's something different. And since we've announced this, you know, I kind of got a little bit of backlash in my office. Some emails, some phone calls. Why can't you leave this alone? Why can't we just stick with the basics? Why is this even necessary? You know why you're here, and you know why it is necessary. Please know, regardless of those phone calls, I proudly stand with you today. What we are doing here today will show the support of this bill and show that it has the support and the necessity for it. I am the granddaughter of Italian immigrants. They came to this country for a better life. I may not be Asian, but I'm fighting for you in Albany because it is the right thing to do, period, full stop. So, after today, you guys got the signs, you came to the rally, sign the petitions. Tell your friends, and I mean, you already got Anna and I. Tell your friends in other communities, have them call their assembly members, have them call their New York State senators, and let's get this done. Let's do it together. Let's get this bill passed and finally make our history books complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Peter Gong to say a few words.
Thank you. As you know, last year I was inducted in the Veterans Hall of Fame by 2021 honorary by Senator Kaplan. Also, are there veterans out there? Please raise your hand to be recognized. I salute you. I have another question. Does anybody know what day it is today? It's Armed Forces Day Parade Day. Parade Day. Also, on Veterans Day, on Memorial Day, please, if you see a veteran, say thank you to the veteran for the service and the freedom you have.
Thank you.
And every day. My name is Peter Gong. I am 78 years old and have lived in New Hyde Park for 45 years. I served in the United States Army for 12 years and the United States Air Force for 16 years. I also honor and color guards upon request. I want Senator Liu bill to pass.
Yes.
I want my grandkids and their kids to learn in school about the sacrifices of Asian Americans in this country.
Yes.
When people say, go back to your country, I want them to learn who died building the great transcontinental railroad. Thanks to the Chinese immigrant who built the railroad, this country, our country became great. When people say, go back to China, I want them to know I fought for this country, my country, as a combat infantryman in Vietnam with the 1st Cavalry Division with 3 battle stars.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Also, people don't know about the 100th Battalion during World War II. It has 1,500 Japanese American soldiers who fought and died for this country. The 100th Battalion is the most decorated American unit for its size and length of service. It received 6 Distinguished Service Cross during the first 8 weeks of combat and earned 3 Presidential Unit citations. Asian Americans contribute so much to this country to make this a great nation. It's time for our kids and grandkids to learn about it in school. Yes, teach our history, pass civility.
Next, we're going to hear from our future leaders. We have with us Vicky Lynn from Great Neck High School, who would like to say a few words.
Hello, good morning everyone. Good morning! So, my name is Vicky Lynn, and I'm currently a junior at Great Neck South High School. I am here today because I've personally been affected by the absence of Asian American history in our public school systems. Because of this, ignorance towards my people has been excused and normalized. You don't realize how much of a toll this leaves on our communities until you see it firsthand. The racism someone like me faces in our daily lives. A few years back, at an event with my mother, an older fellow asked for my name. Unexpectedly, he laughed when I told him my name was Vicky. He proceeded to ask for my real name, insinuating my name was too American, and I looked too ethnic or Oriental to have a stereotypical American name. His microaggressions continue with statements such as, "What's your real name? How'd you end up with a name like that?" For a few seconds, I didn't know how to respond. I was taken aback. I had never felt racism that was so subtle, yet so painful, because it had to do with my identity. It was disheartening, especially since the older man seemed like he was not intentionally trying to be racist or hostile. He was simply uneducated and ignorant that an Asian American is still an American. This man's actions represent the racist stereotypes and viewpoints of Asian Americans that linger in our society to this day. Racism towards our people has been evident since the beginning of Asian American history in the US when Chinese American laborers came here. The fact that xenophobia towards Asian Americans resurfaced at an all-time high since the COVID-19 pandemic just further proves that there isn't being enough done to educate the public. We are sick and tired of having to see our friends and family get blamed for global pandemics and watching our elderly get pushed, beaten, and killed over racist misinformation. Supporting this legislation is a step towards promoting an equitable view of Asian Americans in the US. It's an opportunity to teach the brutal history Asian Americans have endured while also sharing our wonderful traditions and culture. Ignorance should no longer be an excuse nor an option for anti-Asian hate. Please join me in support of this Asian American education bill so we can make sure that hate crimes and daily microaggressions towards Asian Americans do not repeat themselves for future generations.
Next, we have Betty Leong, retired New York City teacher of 31 years and a proud New Hyde Park resident.
Hi, thank you for coming. As a teacher, we all know that education can change the world. Only in this way can bigotry and discrimination be stamped out. Like in March of 2020 through December 2021, there were more than 11,000 hate crimes targeting Asian and Pacific Asian Americans across America. These crimes were reported to an advocacy group called Stop AAPI Hate and the New York Times. These hate crimes can be attributed to ignorance. Ignorance breeds hate. So even though Asian American children do not know their own Asian American history, I was born in this country. We went to the public school in New York City, and we never really learned about history. My first excitement was reading The Good Earth, where we had and predicting about China and everything like that. So that was my first introduction to Asian history, the good earth. Illinois and New Jersey has already passed federal legislation in their state that Asian American history may be taught in the all public school, and we should do the same here in New York. This July, the American Federation of Teachers will have its biennial convention in Boston. 2 resolutions are going to be presented to the national delegates for ratification. The first resolution deals with combating hate, Asian hate. The second resolution deals with supporting the federal legislation introduced by Grace Meng and John Liu, the Teaching Asian American History. There is no doubt in my mind that these 2 resolutions will be ratified by the convention delegates. So support Grace Meng's bill, HR 2283, to bring an end to bigotry and discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Next, we have Iris Liu, Manhasset High School junior, who wrote articles in English and Chinese about why Asian American history curriculum is necessary.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at this rally. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here today. In school, I'm the quiet girl. I've always been the quiet girl. During recess, I, like many other quiet girls, prefer to read a book in the comfort of my school's library rather than playing with the kids outside. Rather than chatting with the teacher about the latest NBA game, I draw in my notebook. I've always been the listener, never the speaker. Until recently, I've never been the one to take action. Yet as the quiet girl, I know that being quiet comes with its consequences. People will make assumptions about you. They'll disregard your opinion, ignore you, and even waive your rights. I refuse to continue to be the quiet girl. And the Asian American community as we face the continued violation of our fundamental rights, cannot remain quiet in the corner of the classroom.
That's right!
Because if we do, American society will forever remain unchanged. 2 years ago, COVID shut down our world, and almost overnight, the Asian American community was met with more hate crimes than we have ever seen. Why should we be afraid to walk the streets of our own homes?
You should not.
Why should we be afraid to go to a supermarket in fear of crazy attacks, slashings, harassment, and even hospitalization? This is our home too, and it is time that we tackle this bigoted bias against our community in a place where our contributions to society and our voices have been ignored in our classrooms. Education is supposed to prepare students for their integration into a complex and diverse society. But how can we be prepared to enter this world if we're not given a full view of American history?
That's right.
We need to incorporate Asian American historical figures, struggles, stories in our school curricula. Only then can we begin the very important work of erasing anti-Asian bias and ensuring that the tragedies of yesterday and today do not occur tomorrow. If this bill is passed, then American citizens and politicians will learn that we're not perpetual foreigners. We're not the yellow peril that plagues their beloved cities and streets. We are not a threat. We're the fabric of America. We are politician activists. We are teachers, factory workers, chefs, judges, and fathers and mothers, and we're students.
Yes.
We're a community that has the right to walk the streets unafraid of being harmed. We can no longer be ignored as an integral part of American history and American society.
That's right.
We are hurt, we're bleeding, and our voices are demanding to be heard. So let them hear us. And with this, I resolve to no longer be the quiet girl. Thank you.